Hey everybody, this is Neil, your Atlanta SEO expert, and this video is going to be about using BetterWP Security as a way to help secure your WordPress install. Now, since WordPress is one of the most popular platforms for websites out there, that it's a major target for hackers. So you always want to make sure that you keep your installation as safe as possible. Now, nothing is 100%, so always, keep backups, and we'll actually include that in BetterWP Security. So this is a fresh install of a website. Some of these changes are best done when you have a fresh installation, and we'll go over some of those. Um, so the first thing you want to keep in mind is that your username should never be admin, because a lot of systems use that by default. So just do something different. Anything that's not admin is better. All right. So this is the first dashboard. The installation I had, didn't have all the latest theme updates and things like that. But we're going to go to install a new plugin. So we go to add new, and we're looking for BetterWP Security. And click install now. It says #1 WordPress security plugin. That might be true, I don't know, but it's pretty good. So click OK to install. It's going to download. And usually it'll say, installing, unzipping, and then activate. Let's see if it did all that. Oh, it did. Okay. So this installation is being a little bit weird in that way. But let's go ahead and activate the BetterWP Security plugin, and you'll see down here a little thing popped up on the menu, and it says Security. So we go there. That's your security plugin at work. Now, the first time you go to the security menu, it'll give you this message. Say, before we begin, it is extremely important that you make a backup of your database. This will make sure you can get your site back to the way it is right now. Should something go wrong, click to the button to create a backup. And it'll email it to whatever the email address is for your account here. And that's one of the nice features about BetterWP's backup. It doesn't just keep it on the server, but it actually emails it to you. So we go ahead and create database backup. I always recommend backing up. And okay, backup completed. And it'll send an email automatically. So now, one-click protection. Secure my site from basic attacks, or no thanks, prefer to do everything myself. Go ahead and secure your site from basic attacks. That'll set a lot of the options that we want by default. Okay, now it's gone ahead and switched those options that it did, and these are still issues that it needs to, or it's drawing your attention to. Now for me, the I'll go through the ones I like to use. So we go to user. And it says, congratulations, you do not have a user named admin, because that was that issue I was talking about before. So if you did have a username called admin, you would have an option to change it here, and you would go ahead and do that. Now, additionally, each username has an ID associated with it. So if you only have the first user is always going to be user number 1, and that can be vulnerable to some attacks. So we go ahead and change that by clicking this button here. Okay, so then go to Away. Now, the Away system, or menu here, gives you the ability to lock down your back end of your website during certain hours. So you could say, enable the Away mode, and you can say daily, and then set what times you want to be able to log in and what times you don't. Typically, I don't really worry about this too much. You always have to keep in mind that the time zone of that you're setting here is based on your blog. So whatever time zone you set in the blog, and then if you change that later on, it can give you an unexpected lockout time. So I don't really bother. And we go to ban. So this is a great option. This automatically imports a ban list from hackrepair.com, and we can go ahead and add that. So you can also add your own IP list of IPs that you want to ban. If you have a list from another source, or if you have previous experience, you can just put those in here. That's pretty handy. And then we go on to directory. Now, this only works, this directory menu only works if it's a fresh installation of WordPress. So if you already have content, do not use this. That's what these big red text pieces are about. So this is a fresh installation. There's no content whatsoever. So we can go ahead and change the directory that all the themes and plugins and so on are stored in. And that will actually secure a large chunk of all the attacks. Because they know by default that everything's kept in this directory here. So let's go ahead and change that to, anything besides WP-content. So we'll say, let's say stuff folder. And click Save Changes. And now every time you upload an image or install a plugin or anything, it'll be in this folder instead of the WP-content. And that's probably, that right there is one of the biggest ways to secure your site. For backups, backups are great. You can schedule them every day, every hour, or once a week, and it'll send you one by email to whatever address you want. And so I like to do one a day. And that way, if your site does get hacked, then you can restore it very easily. And prefix. Now the prefix is talking about the database that your WordPress installation is looking at in your MySQL stuff. So by default, most installations use this WP underscore as the prefix for all the WordPress information. Again, because it's a default, it's very susceptible to hacks. So we go ahead and change that, and it'll give you some random string, which is great. So if you went into your cPanel and looked at your PHP MyAdmin and looked at your databases, you now see this prefix string on all your WordPress tables. And then we go to hide. Now hide, in order to use this, we have to turn on permalinks. So let's go ahead and do that. This is in your settings area. The simplest thing to do is post names. I like those. Let's go back to security and hide backend. Okay, so by default, when you are accessing your WordPress, you can go to WP-login or WP-register or WP-admin, and that will take you to the login page, the register page, or the admin page. So because again it's a default and therefore susceptible, we want to hide those, and this will create these new links. Basically, they're really slugs, but it just changes the default access, which is always a good idea. So click Save. If you're using a management plugin for lots of blogs, a lot of times you can't do this because that management plugin, like there's a bunch of them, Manage WP, Main Networks, Infinite WP, all those would conflict with this. So if you're using one of those, do not hide your backend. Let's go to Detect. Okay, so this is 404 detection and file change detection. 404 detection, basically, if somebody's hammering your site with a lot of requests for pages that don't exist, this will find that and then ban them. So you can change, how often or how many errors you allow. So right now it's set as, it'll remember each failed attempt for 5 minutes, and then if somebody does over 20 wrong pages, it'll lock them out for 15 minutes. And that's okay. So I like to blacklist repeat offenders, so if I see the same IP addresses doing that over and over again, I'll just automatically ban them from accessing the site at all. And like the warning says here, if your site has a lot of missing files, then doing this could ban your own computer, which would not be good. So make sure that you don't ban yourself. And you can add your own IP address here to prevent that from happening. And then we go to file change detection. So if you want to monitor any file changes, you can go ahead and do this. I typically leave this off because there's a lot of plugins that will change, or if you're updating themes, and you'll just get lots of emails. So I don't bother with that one. But if you want to be more secure, you can go ahead and enable that. So go back up to the top. Oh, I gotta save these. That'd be good, because I changed that one option. We go to login. Okay. A lot of people will try to hack your passwords, so we definitely want to limit how many times people can make a wrong guess. Max login attempts per host, 5's a little high. Let's go ahead and change that to 3. Max login attempts per user before a username is locked out. And let's go ahead and change that to 5. And login time period is the number of minutes, between basically hacking attempts that you would count. And then the lockout time is 15 minutes. Again, blacklisting repeat offenders is already checked. So if they trip this 3 times, and then they'll be banned, essentially. And the email notifications, if somebody does get locked out, it'll go ahead and send you an email notifying you of that, which is nice. And if you if you lock yourself out, this will be handy. So let's go ahead and save changes. And SSL, most blogs will not be using SSL, so typically not something you need to worry about. And tweaks. Now this is the kind of the gobbledygook. All the previous things are somewhat self-explanatory. So for server tweaks, protect files, disable directory browsing, filter request methods, filter suspicious query strings, and filter non-English characters. I go ahead and check all of those. If you have a non-English blog, then don't check this last one, because you'll obviously be having non-English characters. Basically what this does is it sets your important files, like your config file, your install PHP, your directories, like that WP content and WP admin, and all those are kind of blocked. The filter method requests, filter suspicious query strings, that has to do with database accesses. If a hacker kind of knows what he's doing, a lot of times you can type in your address up here and then a bunch of PHP or SQL injection kind of commands in the actual address bar, and if you're not protected against that, he can modify your database without your permission. Header tweaks, usually I leave these as they are. Dashboard tweaks, I leave these as they are. Basically hiding update notifications is the main thing there. Strong passwords, this will depend on if your blog allows users to register or not. Basically, this is saying it's going to require a strong password for the administrator or anybody higher than an administrator. Now, nobody's higher than an administrator, so that's just the administrator. If we change it down to subscriber, it's gonna force everybody from subscriber on up to administrator to use strong passwords. So nobody could have like 123 as a password. Other tweaks, usually I'll remove WordPress login error messages, and what that does is it prevents a hacker from knowing that he had a failed login attempt. So when they hammer your site with scripts, the script won't know that it was unsuccessful. It'll just keep trying the same thing, which will then lock it out, which gives you an extra layer of protection. Allowing WPSecurity to access your htaccess and your WP-config PHP, leave that. Reduce spam comment, that's great. Basically, if somebody just hits your site without a referrer or is a bot, then they won't have the option to leave you a comment. There are other ways to block comments. You can just turn them off manually, or you can turn them off in your settings. But always, I just like to use it. Removing write permissions from htaccess WP config. If you turn this on, basically no scripts, no plugins, no anything will be able to change your access or your configuration. So basically you won't be able to update stuff. So typically I leave this unchecked. If you want to be more secure, you can go ahead and check it. Display random version numbers to all non-administrative users. there's a plugin that I like to use that conflicts with this, so I don't use it, but you could. Basically, under the current version, we're at 3.7.1, so it might display, 2.9 or 3.2 or whatever, just a different version, because what ends up happening is that different WP versions have different known security vulnerabilities that have since been closed. So if a bot is searching for all WP 3.2 installations for a specific vulnerability, and then it thinks yours is one of them, basically they'll try to attack it, and then it'll be caught and banned, which is can be nice. Prevent long URL strings. I do include this. Like it says here, hackers often take advantage of long URLs to try to inject information into your database. This works hand in hand with the tweak up at the top about suspicious query strings. So, go ahead and enable both of those. And then turn off file editor in WordPress backend. What a lot of hackers do is if they're able to hack into your admin area, they'll go in and insert their links or whatever in your themes and plugins, and this will prevent that. I don't really bother with this. I have not found it to be a big issue, but again, if you want to, you can go ahead and enable it. The login bans keep most of that down, and then logs are those aren't settings; those are just logs of nobody has any. This is a new installation, so I haven't had any security issues yet. After a while, you will start to see these, creep up as bots and hackers try to take down your site, and then you'll see locked out hosts and users. And the nice thing about that is that if you have the IP addresses or the hosts listed here, then on future sites you can add those to your known bad actors. So when we did the ban menu, those kinds of things would go in here for host and user agents. So that's pretty much it. When we go back to the dashboard, we'll see that everything in green is fully secured. Orange are partially secured. So like it's pointing out that the admin area is available 24 hours a day. So that was the scheduling thing on the away menu. And then things in red are not secured at all, and the only thing on this list that is in red is not actively looking for changed files, because again, a lot of my plugins actively change files, so I don't like to use that. And blue are not fully secured, but could have issues with other themes or plugins, so it's kind of a use your best judgment sort of thing. So the ones that are in blue are things that I have intentionally left not fully secured. So because either they haven't been an issue or they conflict with some other plugins or scripts that I use. So that's how I run my BetterWPSecurity setup. Once you've done this once per site, you really never have to touch it again. The only thing you might want to do is go to your logs every now and then and see which hosts and user agents have been locked out and add those to your overall lists for all your sites. So I hope that helps. Again, this is Neil, your Atlanta SEO expert. So if you have any questions, go ahead and leave a comment below, and we'll get you going. Thanks.